Welcome back to another RC Worst video. Today we're here with Scott from Sump Alarm, and we're going to be walking you guys through the product offering relating to their outdoor sump alarms. We're going to talk a little bit about the indoor unit and jump right into things. So Scott, how you doing today?
Doing great, Chris. Thank you for having us.
Fantastic. I appreciate having you here today. I know you made quite a long trip. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the Sump Alarm products here. What do we got in front of us today?
Well, what we have here is two units. This is what we call as a 1L, which is a really complicated nomenclature. It means one light.
Oh, okay.
And a 2L Sump Alarm unit. This one happens to be standard, meaning not Wi-Fi enabled, and this one's Wi-Fi enabled.
Okay. And so these units are rated for indoor and outdoor?
That's right. So everything in the Sump Alarm product line is rated for -40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and is absolutely suitable for outdoor use.
That's great. And so how long have you guys been in the market here selling these products?
Since about 2011.
So, you know, that's relatively new. You've got quite a number of other players in the market. What kind of got you involved in the Sump Alarm process?
You know, just personal use. At the time when these products were created, there was nothing on the market that kind of filled the need of what I wanted to do. I had my own outdoor pump, and I wanted to keep better track of it.
Well, that's kind of, you know, it's interesting because I've talked to a number of manufacturers over the years, and it's always a similar story. Like, you know, I needed something, I had a problem, I solved the problem myself, and then my neighbor caught on and wanted one too.
That's pretty much what happened. That's a really good summary.
That's pretty cool. So I looked through the product catalog on Sump Alarm, and you have quite a number of different orderable configurations, but it seems like the core of the products is really almost between these two units as far as the outdoor stuff is concerned. So what tips do you have for the folks at home that are considering the products for selecting the right configuration?
Well, there are a lot of SKUs, but there's really three decisions that somebody needs to make, which is one, do I want Wi-Fi or non-Wi-Fi? Two, would I like to have a power light, which gives you, in the non-Wi-Fi mode, it just gives you line of sight confirmation that power is on in my pump. In the Wi-Fi configuration, it does a little bit more for you because you actually might get an alert that would make you want to know if you've tripped your breaker or your GFCI. And then the last choice there is to make is what kind of sensor you want. There's two different kinds of float switch and a conductivity probe. The conductivity probes are available only on the Wi-Fi units, but our Sludge Boss or Water Boss float switches can be used with either one.
Oh, okay. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Sludge Boss or Water Boss, the different float configurations, we're going to be trying to squeeze in. We've got limited time with Scott here today. We're going to try to squeeze in a video where we go through those different switch configurations. So hopefully we have time to get that done and you can check it out. So I also wanted to kind of touch base on the actual construction materials because, I mean, let's be honest, these things look quite a bit different than what I'm completely familiar with, and most of what I see on the market, they all look almost the same. So, you know, I look at this box, it seems really well built, very rigid. What kind of brought you to this particular design?
Well, earlier in my career, I worked in manufacturing, and we put together control panels and things of that nature that were made for industrial service. So these are things that are out in all kinds of super nasty environments, and they need to hold up. So I guess part of it is that is the background, and then the other part of it is that once you know that you can kind of build something somewhat beefy, that's kind of what you want to do.
Yeah, that definitely, I can definitely agree with that. I just appreciate the simplicity that it seems to have here, where you really don't have much to go wrong. And we had a couple of these things open earlier. We were looking inside, and surprisingly, there's not a whole lot going on there. And Scott mentioned something pretty interesting that you know, if you at home get one of these alarm systems, you're more than welcome to crack it open and have a look in there. As far as I know, that's not going to have any impact on the warranty.
It doesn't void the warranty at all. No, as a matter of fact, we have all kinds of people who either they need to pull a wire through a conduit, or they want to hard pipe the power, or any of those type of things, and we support that.
Yeah, that sounds great, because my understanding is some of these units, we've got some compression type of wire nuts in there that once they're in place, you'd essentially have to cut the wires. So if you need something special, I guess is what Scott's trying to say, is just let him or I know, and we can definitely make it work for you.
Right. Particularly on the non-Wi-Fi product line, the connections inside of this are they use a crimp-on wire nut.
Okay.
So if, for example, an installer would place an order with you, and they would say, I will be, I need to get the float switch through a conduit or something like that, just a simple note on the order, and we'll ship it out with the instructions to do that.
Great. And also, these do have an alarm, audible alarm, and a visual alarm. You mentioned that another option, of course, is whether or not you want the audible alarm disabled. And I think that that's a great thing to offer as well.
Sure. So what our units don't have, because the standard is that they come with a 6-foot power cord, right? So with that in mind, we have not built a silence feature into them. However, the unit can be disconnected. We also use a 90 decibel horn, so it's fairly friendly for outdoor. You're not going to probably wake up your neighbor with it. However, if someone does say, you know what, I've got the Wi-Fi unit, I'm going to be getting notifications, I don't really need a horn, there's no cost for the change out. If RC Worst sends us the order and they just put on there that customer would prefer a red LED light without a horn, then this just becomes a red 1-inch LED light. All the alarms use LED technology, and we change that out and the horn goes away, but you still have a visual indication.
Excellent. So your apartment dwellers and folks that are worried
Absolutely.
about offending their neighbors.
Absolutely.
So that's great. Now we keep mentioning Wi-Fi. What is the main reason that you would want to have this unit hooked to Wi-Fi?
Well, most people would say, well, the answer is notifications. But I think, you can go down another level from that. There's a lot of people out there that only have one circuit going out to their septic system or to the location, or obviously, anything that's around water has to be plugged into a GFCI, generally including the pump if it's a plugged-in pump. And then there's always the issue of trip breakers. So while folks assume that when there's no high water, the wireless units aren't doing anything, and that couldn't be further from the truth. All the wireless units, they report into our server every couple of minutes. Every time the server gets the health pulse from the unit, it starts a clock. When the next health pulse comes in, it restarts the clock. And then the user can go online, which is you, and say, I want to know if my unit hasn't reported for as low as 15 minutes or as long as never. And so in that scenario, what's going to happen is, let's say that the GFCI trips. Well, the white light's going to go off, but you're also going to get a notification from our server that says your unit has stopped reporting. And at that point in time, to go check your GFCI and check your circuit breaker if the power light is off. If the power light's on, then you have something going on with your Wi-Fi, perhaps a change in signal credentials, maybe your unit is buried in snow, any one of those types of things.
So I'm familiar with a variety of products on the market, and I think that, and I could be wrong here, but I think that a lot of the other Wi-Fi technology, specifically in the sump industry, tries to beat the power outage as opposed to checking to see if the unit's still connected like yours does. It seems like what will happen is if there's a power outage event or something along those lines, the unit tries to send the notification before the window or the door closes, and I could see that as being a potential problem because most Wi-Fi systems, your internet and so forth, is also dependent on power. And of course, your example of if it's in the same circuit as the pump, if the breaker trips, obviously your internet might not be affected as in a full power outage situation. But it seems like with the remote or server side monitoring, you're adding a reliability factor there. And I kind of wanted to also take just a second to talk about and pay attention to this because I don't think hardly anybody else has this. These units are actually recommended to be installed on the same circuit that your pump is on because of that monitoring technology. And so basically, if the breaker trips because the pump goes bad, it's also going to let you know that the power supply has been affected, and that is completely different from most other alarm systems that I'm aware of, where they're always saying run it on a dedicated circuit because if your pump kills the breaker, you're never going to know you had a problem until your basement's backed up or what have you.
And that's great if you have that option. If you have the second circuit, you can use it on the second circuit, and it will detect the high level. However, and I should say one of the things it won't do is when power is out, it does not send a high level alarm. Mm-hmm. However, if your power is out, you are invariably going to, at some point in time, get a high level alarm.
Yeah, start the clock.
Yeah, and it's probably worth noting that for every notification that gets received from the device, or from the server, for any of those conditions, when the condition goes away, the customer gets another alert that the alarm's been resolved.
Oh, interesting.
So let's say that you're in Bangkok, Thailand, in the airport when you find out that you don't have power on your sump. Mm-hmm. And let's say that there was an outage to the home and the power comes back on, it's going to automatically reconnect with the network and let you know that that issue is resolved. And the same is true with high level.
That's pretty great. I mean, then you kind of got that added peace of mind, or you call the plumber in there and you know that he fixed it because you're getting a notification. And you can kind of keep him honest a little bit. He says he was there 2 hours, but you got that notification he fixed it an hour ago. So my understanding with this Wi-Fi unit definitely has me interested. Is it's a single float, and you choose either a float or you can use the sensor probes. And it's just basically running off that one input. But you guys also have another unit, this Level Sense, that can have multiple inputs. Tell me just briefly more about that. And real quick, if you guys are really interested in what Scott says here, we're going to make a separate video on this one because it's got a lot more to it.
Well, the Level Sense product line actually has two products in it. The Level Sense Pro is probably the highest tech and smartest product in it. It can do multiple sensors. It has a built-in auxiliary relay. It's really made for the basement. That's really what its focus is. Whereas on the SumpAlarm product line, you're getting the outdoor, the hardened electronics. Mm-hmm. On the Level Sense product line, the temperature ratings are not quite as lenient. It's from 32 to 110, and it has a built-in rechargeable battery. And in that case, you just get a lot more features.
So more electronics, but more susceptible, and thus it's an indoor-only unit.
That's right. And the sensors that come with it are indoor, for indoor use only. We have a lot of people that say, well, could I use a Level Sense and take the sensors outside and put them in my septic system? And the answer is yes, but you would need to not use the sensors that are in the box. There's other lines of sensors that you would use, such as the float switch video you mentioned.
Okay. And just briefly, what are the different types of, so we've got multiple inputs, so there's different things that we can look for?
Oh, absolutely. You can get temperature, humidity notifications on your basement. You can find out if the breaker has tripped. It has a separate notification for a trip breaker than it does for a power outage to the entire home. And then where most folks put one sensor in the sump, we put three in there. And there's also an audible horn inside of it, as well as a lithium polymer backup battery that if the unit loses power, it will continue to do its job locally. That's cool.
Well, I hope you guys stay tuned for the Level Sense product video because we're going to even talk about that more. So Scott, I want to thank you for joining us today on this video. I think that we at least went over the product line, and hopefully it's going to help you in making a decision of which one of these is going to be right for your application, and of course what configuration is going to be right for you as well. If you have questions, you can definitely reach out to SumpAlarm directly or get a hold of us here at RC Worst. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. We will catch you next time.